Hey guys, this is Beta. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, I have something to share with you guys, and this one hits really close to home. It is, it's just how you study. We all go through high school, and most of us go through undergrad. We never really address this question of how would you go and tackle some information and just kind of like jam it all in your brain. And this is something that I learned later on in my career in undergrad, and I wish someone would have told me sooner. So this is just my own personal experience with this, and hopefully you're gonna find this helpful. By the way, make sure you're gonna like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because it's gonna help the channel grow and reach out as many people as we can. I actually brought a couple of my notebook to help me explain this method. Is an unorthodox method, and it's something that worked for me. It really is based on active recall and active learning. I'm sure you probably have heard this term somewhere. So what is it? It's basically, in a nutshell, where basically it doesn't matter, like, let's say a lecture slide. You go through a lecture slide, if you're like, I don't know, with an iPad, with a laptop or whatever, so you study a lecture slide with a lecture recording, and then you pause that lecture recording and you explain the material to yourself, either verbally or on a piece of paper. Okay, so basically you're a tutor and a 2D at the same time. What does this do is it forces you to regurgitate the material, but also make sure you understood the material, because if you don't know the material, you're not going to be able to explain it to yourself. And also, the gaps in your knowledge, like you thought you know something, like gaps in your knowledge, they'll really come to surface. Like you will understand, like, oh my god, what was that? What was that point on that lecture slide? What was that thing that my professor was talking about in the lecture recording? You can go back and rewatch the lecture or like whatever you do, so you understand where you had difficulty with, and that's really helpful. And also, you make sure you know the material as you're going through the material. So this is for the first pass of the material. For the second time that you'll come back to the material, before going through the lecture slides and before going through the recorded lecture or whatever you have, again, try to explain the material to yourself. Since, like, for example, I don't know, let's say photosynthesis, just crossed my mind right now. Explain the, like, I don't know, the Krebs cycle and all of that. Like, explain the steps of the Krebs cycle to yourself before. So this is for the second pass, right? Explain the like, for example, Krebs cycle to yourself before you crack open the textbook or before you look at the lecture slides. Okay. Once you do this and explain to yourself on a piece of paper, you kind of know, like, what was that enzyme over here, what does it do, or like how many CO2s are being released, like whatever that is. And then you look at the lecture slides, like, oh, that's where I made a mistake, or that's something that I didn't know. So, and also, if you do that like 3 times or 4 times, man, you're golden. I want to show you guys these things. These are just my notes, for example. Not the notes that I would study, these are like the questions that I solve. I always explain the material to myself. This is how would you do it. Like, for example, you grab a notebook and here you go. All of this, it's just me going through problems and just going through questions and explaining the material to myself. Another one. Here you go. All of this. Are these the notes that I would study for the exam? Absolutely not. But I just, like, as I was going through the material, I explained the material to myself, and I think this is the power of this. Now, this is for you to understand the material and for you to know that you've understood the material. But you probably should also grab a notebook. That's going to help you to write very beautiful and neat notes for you to.
And speaking of beautiful notes, I mean, here we go. These are the notes that I've taken. This is for organic chemistry, right? So these are, for example, these ones are like the similarly looking reactions and stuff, like these ones, again, using the diol to turn that into aldehyde. So these are the notes, and sometimes they're from like different chapters, but I have put them together to make a coherent notebook for me to go and look at them the night before the exam. And I mean, even writing these notes is powerful because it's going to help you to remember that, and also it is the high yield information that you need to know before showing up to the exam. And this is for all camps, for organic chemistry. You can definitely do it for any course that you want. And I just want to show you this little pic of my notes, and hopefully you're gonna find this helpful and do well in your courses as well.